Hi guys, Sandy here. Today I want to talk to you about Gen Zs and how they are essentially already planning to quit the rat race while still in the early stages of their careers, which is kind of making them my heroes right now because they are embracing what this channel is all about and one of my personal mottos, living a life that exceeds your expectations. Well, for a lot of Gen Zs, that means saving money and aiming for a shorter career by maximizing time and opportunity. And how are they planning to do that? By bringing back the FIRE movement and adding their own little twist to it. Now, in fairness, a good chunk of millennials are doing it too, finding a new way to be free from that 9 to 5 of that living for work mentality. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's start by explaining what all of this is about. So, what is the FIRE movement? It's essentially an acronym that stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, and it was first popularized back in 1992 with the bestseller Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin and Joe Rodriguez. Back then, the concept was you would place somewhere between 50 to 75% of your income aside to save and invest, and that would allow you to retire in your 30s or 40s. Sounds pretty interesting, doesn't it? Except that for millennials, with joining the workforce during the recession and earning less money throughout their careers than the previous generation did, and with the increase in living costs and all that student debt, being able to do this in, say, the 2000s, 2010s, meant living a really frugal, miserable life to make it happen. So it's no wonder that the FIRE died out eventually and fewer people were doing it. Fast forward to 2020, the pandemic hits, and you may think, well, with all those businesses closing and people struggling to pay their bills and having to dive into their savings, surely the FIRE movement would go extinct once and for all, right? Not exactly, because in fact, the pandemic also allowed many people to save money due to lockdown and having to stay home and not being able to go out for dinner or for entertainment. They also saved more money working from home, without all those working expenses. And let's not forget about the many people who are also able to move, just relocated to a location with lower living costs while maintaining the same salary. But more importantly, people's views towards work was changing fast. Cue the Great Resignation. Now, as we've seen in other videos, while the pandemic didn't cause the Great Resignation, it did without a doubt speed it up considerably. People were faced with their own mortality, had to adjust to a new reality of working from home and all the logistics that implied, and for most of them, it actually worked out pretty great. So, when faced with the prospect of going back to how things were before COVID, that 9 to 5, the cubicle at the office, the dreadful commute, it just no longer made sense to them. So people started quitting, some looking for better opportunities and more flexible working arrangements, others retiring early, and a big chunk of them becoming self-employed. And guess who drove the Great Resignation? Millennials and Gen Zs, of course. Now, we could also talk about other movements that were brewing as well, like the Lying Flat movement that first started in China and quickly swept the world by storm. People who join this movement essentially choose to live a low productivity, low desire lifestyle that enables them to not work or work part-time to support the few expenses they have while rejecting all the milestones the older generation valued, like buying a home, getting married, or even having children. And the ones who do work do the bare minimums to get that paycheck at the end of the month and just enjoy the rest of their time to do whatever they want. Or nothing at all. Now, if you want to know more about this movement, I am posting a link to that video below so that you can watch it after this one, okay? In America, we are also seeing the anti-subreddits really picking up pace, People are sharing how they're quitting their crappy jobs in dramatic fashion and inspiring others to do the same. And we also have the idlers who, like the people from the Lying Down movement, just do the bare minimums to get paid by the end of the month and make ends meet. There's also a video about it you can watch. I'll post a link in the description so you can watch it after this one as well. But overall, what all of this means is young people just don't want to live for work anymore. They want to pursue their own passions, have more free time to do whatever they want, or just to free themselves from the pressure to overwork. That hustle mentality older people try to impose and expect younger people to work themselves into the ground for their own profit. But at the same time, of course, younger workers want to make a life for themselves. They want to earn their own money, not have to worry about their future. And that's how FIRE made a comeback. Except now, Gen Zs are focusing on the FI portion of the acronym. They want to be financially independent and be able to do what makes them happy. Make the choices that work for them. According to a Goldman Sachs survey, 1 in 5 Gen Zs say they are also planning to retire before the age of 55. That is 25% 65% of them planning their future and already doing what they need to retire early. But how? Well, for many of these young workers, job losses and difficulties in finding good jobs and slow job progression combined with wanting better working conditions and an overall desire to have better control over their lives means that after quitting or losing their current jobs, they are considering becoming entrepreneurs. In fact, a recent survey showed that 53% of surveyed Gen Zs wanted to have their own business, a number which rose to 65% for those already in the workforce. And let's face it, becoming an entrepreneur has never been easier, with startup costs decreasing and the resources made available to entrepreneurs just exploding. And then there's everything that being born and raised among the internet and mobile technology has brought them, like content creation, for example. Anyone can start a blog or a TikTok channel or a YouTube channel for that matter. And if you're able to stick with it, it will usually pay off. All they need to do is look around and see how many people are living off of it. All this technological literacy also means that they have access to information, more than ever before, which goes a long way with achieving that much desired independence. And don't get me wrong, millennials had the same desires too when they were younger. I mean, the internet was already available, right? But their financial status just made it that much harder. A 2016 study shows that those who were between 18 and 34 years old at the time had similar ideas about entrepreneurship. 78% thought it was a good idea, and 62% were considering doing it. But a staggering 42% lacked financial means to do it. Fortunately, things have changed since then. Nowadays, starting a business is less risky, costs less money, which means you can just do it as a side hustle or as a hobby, and if it works out, make it your full-time business and take it from there. The possibilities are truly endless. At the same time, Gen Zs just don't trust the traditional career model anymore. A lot of them saw what happened to their parents and their older siblings during the recession, and that is also a big reason why they just don't want to rely on other people for their livelihood. Smart, isn't it? And in order to make it happen, the plan is pretty simple. They create their own businesses, follow the FIRE movement, or shall we say the FI movement, meaning they take as much money as they can aside in order to save and invest, which is also much easier to do these days, and from there achieve their financial independence. It doesn't necessarily mean they'll be retiring in their 30s or 40s like the initial FIRE followers wanted. It just means they can call the shots. They decide what they want to do without any worries about how much money they're making and how much they have to work to make ends meet. So, what do you say? Does this sound like a good plan? Do you think these young workers have a point? Leave me a comment below letting me know your opinion on the matter, because I would love to hear from you. Also, before you go, watch this video about the anti-work subreddit that many believe is driving the Great Resignation. That is it for me today, and I will see you over there. Bye-bye! According to a Goldman Sachs for a lot of Gen Zs,